Mhm. All right. Guess who's back? Back again. Third stream in the day. Back again. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Back, 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 back. It's your host, Samurai Kitty Kitty Kit Kat. That's right. It's me. That dude. That guy. That voluptuous man. Oh, right. We are doing the things. Oh, art. Lo and behold, thine artwork. Yes, where we were learning about Hoyo versus Anby and using the official artwork, not anybody's fan art. We're not about that fan art. I don't care about that. I want official stuff because I want to learn how I can design my characters and do my thing and level up as an artist. And when you don't have anybody teaching you how to do anything, this is the road that you need to take. All right, it's learning from others and or teaching yourself through the things, because essentially I'm teaching myself. All of you just so happen to be caught in the crossfire. All right, so first and foremost, let's do some disclaimers. We love disclaimers. Disclaimers are fun. The music today is going to be brought to you by none other than Karl Casey. Karl spelled with a K, Karl, Casey, Casey. He is the artist with White Bat Audio, and you can find him on bandcamp.com. And he does a lot of synthwave stuff, and he does do some metal and some punk and some things like that. That being said, the greatest thing about Karl Casey is that you can get a lot of his music for free or name your own price and so on and so forth, right? Obviously, I'm all about supporting artists. And the cherry on top is that you can use his music for any application as far as, for Twitch, YouTube, stuff like that. Obviously, you can't resell his music, but you can use it for your own creative purposes. And that's what we're going to be using today. So by all means, support Karl Casey. He's awesome. Take a look, bandcamp.com. Or you can find him on YouTube. And then last but not least, of course, as you see here, the lovely artwork that we are using here. This is brought to you by Hoyoverse. This character is Anby from Zenless Zone Zero. And we are utilizing her character and likeness for educational purposes only. We are not using this for any monetary value or gain. We are using this as a learning experience under Creative Commons. All sorts of goodness and stuff of that nature. We will not be selling or redistributing this artwork in any capacity that earns any sort of money as far as that's concerned. Like, well, I'm not going to create this and then start selling this artwork. It's not, no. That's a no. Stop it. Don't do that. But we can most certainly learn and use this artwork for Creative Commons purposes. So there you go. So let's go ahead and get the music started. And I'm going to probably have to adjust some things here, but needless to say, here we go. Like I said, brought to you by Karl Casey. All right. Taking a good listen on my own stream real quick here, making sure that the voice to music ratio is okay. Voice to music ratio is okay. Alright, we might be alright with that. Of course, anybody that joins in can tell me if the music's too loud, too soft, whatever the case may be. But we will work with this at this point in time. Let's go down just a scotch. Just a scotch. Alright. So, this is where essentially we left off with clothing, right? That was what we were trying to emulate, trying to do, is learn about clothing, obviously redrawing Anby and getting those proportions right. Of course, we have these on separate layers, so we have this was our rough layer there, our rough final draft on clothing there, her facial features and hair on this layer. And so if we take that all off, this is her base model. Of course, her base model is shared by Soldier 11, obviously Soldier 0 Anby. I believe Vivian may also share this model, and there's plenty of others that also share Ambi's model in the game. Zenless Zone Zero, I think, uses probably about 3 to 4 models throughout all of their characters. The only thing that changes, of course, is just essentially maybe a proportion here or there, maybe the breast size or the badonk get a little bit juicy, or obviously the biggest part here is the hair changes, the facial features changes, clothing, of course, and just, you know, general posing and how animation is conducted, right? So needless to say, there's a lot you can do with a base, and so really learning the base and trying to figure this out is the biggest part, really. Once you get this done, you kind of can go a little nut. You can go nuts on this. So we can just go ahead and start off where we left off, and you know, and oops, oh no, looks like we deleted all of that work. But why would I delete all that work? What is wrong with me? Remember what I said. If you want to learn a style, guess what you gotta do? Do you remember what you gotta do? You got to do it over and over and over again, especially if you take long breaks like me, because, you know, I have like a job that I work 12 to 14 hours at, right? So I don't have a lot of time to get to artwork. I mean, just look at the last time I did an art stream with you. It's been a minute. You know, I'm not a hardcore streamer. I can't make money off of streaming right now, and I can't make money off of art and all these other things, right? So I got to take this in stride, and I got to do this as a normal Joe Schmo would. So you are witnessing what a general public person can do with their time, and this is it, right? So this is just the disparity of that. Needless to say, what we are going to do, though, is take the original artwork, right? And we are just going to go ahead and I think I can copy this whole layer. So let's see here, edit layers. Can I just copy the layer? I can duplicate the layer. Probably the best thing to do is take our selection tool and then just select outside the bounds, right? Because it will just automatically select your canvas. So just select the whole thing, edit, copy, go to our new illustration, edit, paste. Now you could say, well, why don't you just go back through this again and stuff like that? Why not? I mean, yeah, it's a little extra work, so what? I don't give a shit. I do what I want. But really what this is I get to save everything I've been doing, right? So I kind of want to save all my work. And I like to compare all of my pieces together because I still have, let's see here, go desktop. You know, I still have the first Ambi that we worked on here. Granted, I kind of messed this up, so this is all I have left. So we have this Ambi, we got this Ambi here, and what I want to do is I just kind of want to compare things and see if I'm like doing the same thing or doing refinement or changing things up or whatever have you. So needless to say, let's go ahead and get that first layer up above there. Let's just hit the books, man. Let's hit the books. Oh, I did the wrong thing. Get that opacity down. Get the opacity down. And then we're going to zoom right on in here. And we're just going to get to work. We don't have a whole lot of time. We're just going to get to work. There's our perspective line. Right about there. Eyeballs there. Then we have our cheeks. Of which then the skull should do something like this. That's good. That's fine enough with me. Then we have our neck. Running off where that clavicle is. You can see our clavicles right here. I don't know if that's the correct word to use, but that is what it's what's in my head. Use a quick perspective line there to see where the middle of that neck would be with the jaw. Good stuff, good stuff. Now, I might be moving a little fast on this one, right? Because I just want to get to the juicy parts. We're going to be working on her sleeves today. So last time was chest. Today is going to be sleeves. And there's a lot going on with the sleeves, so we want to make sure we get into it. But at the same point in time, we should be able to get ourselves a little faster anyways with constructing our base model here, because we're just getting used to that, right? And as we do this, of course, we're probably going to get better at her proportions and learning a little bit more about them. I just know that the bottom of her breasts definitely rest on these straps right here. So this is why I make this line where I do. And it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me, and that's really all that matters, is it makes sense to me. Now, I put her in 2 different sections here because she clearly has a rib cage, right? And so her rib cage should go like this, and this is essentially her stomach area. And so you gotta, when you get into like more muscle details and stuff like that, if you do plan to have crop tops and stuff, if her shirt, this shirt right here, rode up further, then I would care more about her stomach details. But we don't have to worry about that with this particular base because it's not worried about at all. All there is a belly button area, and that's about it. I am going to erase this because I might have to do a different perspective, but that's fine. Use round lines too. Don't try and use like straight lines per se. I know I kind of use straight lines here, but it's just because this is very much hidden, right? This is very hard to decipher what is exactly going on right there. But if the base makes sense in the grand scheme of things, then there's not much that I need to care about. Now I am going to redo this though, because this is a little off center, and we can get this recentered real easy, real easy. So right at the base of the neck, right, this is the perspective line right there. That is the perspective line. And so now all I gotta do is that right there. And now we're back in line. Too easy, too easy. Like I said, her belly button will always be shifted over a little too much, in my personal opinion. I could be wrong with that. I also mentioned, you could go in and then come back out and do one of these too. But this is actually a little bit cleaner to me. One line should do everything. We shouldn't have to bend this at all, this perspective line. And then as far as, when we discover these shoulders and this back area here, it's kind of just like, it's hard to say, and I will always have problems with this area here because it doesn't really make sense in how the back works, because clearly this is like her back right there, right? But if you see how thick that is for where her back technically is, because most coats will be snug to the skin, and so she's like this. So realistically, what, she comes down like that? I think that's too far, because then you'd have to find a way to connect her shoulder blades. Like this line almost doesn't make much sense. But of course, again, I'm learning too, right? But we are just trying our best to figure out what her base model would be. And if you look at all these other base models, I kind of go onto this whole like possible like square is what they came up with. It's just very difficult to figure out what exactly kind of thing that they've done here. Because this would be the armpit right here. Of course, the arm. It's this space right here that makes me wonder how they get what they get. Yeah, because if this line were to continue, it should do something like this. And the breast, of course, should come out and protrude from the chest area. So that's, it's a possibility on how that works. We might spend a little bit of time on this because, again, it's just one of those things where, like, I want to be able to get this. So and that might be it right there, but this could be just the jacket is lifted up from the back of her. It's possible. I can't imagine this being... I just can't. And I don't think I didn't even represent... Yeah, see, I even didn't do that in her base models here either. We just put the coat backwards. Or back further anyways. Because it's just as far as like her body shape, like she shouldn't have this... Because this is where that jacket would be, right there. That doesn't make sense. Like, this looks anatomically completely correct. But if we go by her back, or her, where that back is, right? Where this is, which is along that arm, right about there. That's a crazy distance from here to here. That's a big distance on her shoulder. And if we transpose that, I mean, she'd be a chonky girl. Let's just say that. She would be chonky. So I am going to fully assume that this jacket is just loose on her, and it is what it is. Because no other way that you draw this makes sense to me anyways. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe there's an artist that watches this and they're like, oh, this is how you do it, and that's how it makes sense, you fucking noob. By all means, let me know. I'll be more than happy to entertain understanding how this is all the way over here. You know, even if you... I mean, look at that. It looks like more like a freaking backpack if I did that. Right? So, in any case, let's move on. Let's get this down here. It's going to be right about there. And the reason why I picked this spot to stop is because this is about where the wrists are. And really, this is kind of just an estimation. I obviously didn't draw the model. I didn't draw any of the base structure, so how am I supposed to know? And the answer is I'm not. I'm not supposed to know. I'm supposed to take an educated guess at this stuff and figure it out. And we know that, like, her elbow should technically be right about there. So let's do some reverse engineering. So if her elbow is supposed to be right about there, because if we look at the amount of space, so this is the divot on the other arm, right? Yeah, something around there, a little divot there. So let's continue this. Let's continue this one over here real quick. Okay, so and of course we don't know where exactly. We can assume that this line goes like this for the sleeve, right? And so again, we kind of have like this space. You're gonna have to use your eyeball. Now, when you curl your arm like this, though, your elbow is going to be a little closer, right, to the material. This is back all the way up. So her elbow should like be like right about here, which it seems really long to me. Her arm seems very long. I could be wrong, right? I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. But like if we did that, it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, maybe. And maybe it does. And maybe I'm just being crazy. I tend to do that. Just seems like the arms are just very long. But, you know, maybe it's just because of how zoomed in I am and how long I'm making these lines that it makes it seem long, right? And this would be your perspective there. Maybe that be somewhere off this line like that. Yeah, that's better. Little band for the elbow region. and then we're going to come out a little ways, and then come right back in. And of course the wrists are always going to be smaller than the rest of it. But let's just take this hand again. So this is what we know of the hand, right? This is what we know of the hand. So if the hand is like this, it should technically go in a little bit. This should follow and keep following through because you are hyperextended. She basically has almost her wrist is like a flat line, right? And so if you did that to your own hand, if you just, you know, put, so here's the exercise to figure this out. So put your hand, elbow bent, wherever's comfortable for you, but your forearm is pointing straight up and your hand is pointing straight up in the air. Now bend it backwards. Bend it backwards and look at how essentially you have your wrist on the bottom of your palm, right? So this is the bottom of your palm. It's a very slight curve. See what we got here? We have a very slight curve. So this is an easy thing to understand if you can look at it yourself. And then as far as the top of the hand goes, there's definitely a 90-degree angle, such as this, that will go from here and then connect down, kind of do this little swoopage there, and come back down, something like that. Again, I didn't make the base, you know, for this this character, so I just have to figure this out on my own, but this seems about right. There we go. That seems about right. It's close enough to where we could get the job done. We can get the job done. Fingers wise, you know, I haven't really paid too much attention to these just yet because they are a little funky. I don't know what precisely the construction of these fingers are like. Obviously, as far as a hand is concerned, so let's just draw like a basic hand. You can start with a square, right? So this would be essentially your palm. Your thumb, just look at your own hand, right? So your thumb offshoots from the side of your hand. And I usually draw like an angle shape like this. It could be really anything. It just has to be representative of. Then you have your midsection on your thumb, and then your actual like tip of your thumb, right? So you could do something like that. And then there you go. And then the rest of your fingers use 4 points equally spaced across your actual rest of your hand. And they are made up of 3 sections. So you have one section there, one section there, one section there, and they're approximately the same. Now the pinky is a little lower than the rest, but not by much, and we don't really have to care too much about this. But I'm just trying to show you like how you would generally structure your fingers. And then you'd have another section. Now the middle finger, of course, is going to be the longest, so we want to make sure that's up there a little bit. There we go. That one's up there. That one's up there. And then your last section, which is your fingertip, right? And that's essentially, you know, how you would structure a hand. This is very quick, but needless to say, like that is how you typically do it. If we look at Ambi's hand here, again, I don't know what this section, well, past this line, right? This line forward, going this way, no idea. No idea what's actually going on. But if we look at how the artist did the thumb, you could, like, clearly they gave her like fingerless gloves, right? So in my opinion, that's kind of a cheap way of skirting around doing fingers. But so this would essentially be that square shape. I mean, this right here, I could give my character fingerless gloves right now, right? And we're good to go. That's what essentially is happening here. So there is no third section to this thumb. So a thumb should be a little bit more like this, right? That would be more acceptable, but they chose to essentially just do a straight line, and that's fine. Whatever, it's a style choice, right? I might alter this. Of course, I'm going to alter this. I'm going to alter it in every way, shape, and form, and most things. The concept though is getting these. Really, the biggest challenge for me is the clothing design and general character makeup. As far as like doing poses, the hair, I definitely like learning about the hair, and the clothing is the biggest of the big one. Biggest of the big one. But in all, hands are incredibly difficult. Many more artists, even professional artists, will try to hide hands as best as possible, or minimally use them, or do very simple versions of them in their artwork, because it's just like, you're not really going to be focused on the hands anyways, unless that's what your art piece is. Obviously with Ambi, her hands are not the focus. This area kind of is the focus over hands and things. So let's continue forward. Obviously her perspective lines in her arm are going to be relatively to this right here. At least they should be. Alright. We're just going to continue this line like this. There we go. Section things off too, like as soon as you see a joint like this, you automatically know you need to section it off. You know, her spine and stuff like that, and like I said, her rib cage should be its own section. The stomach area should be her own section. We could technically do like a line like this, right? We could do something like this to show the like candy line, groin area, so on and so forth, but it's really not too necessary, because again, this whole area is going to be covered with clothes. It's really just the thick proportions, making sure we have the general shape right. And then, as I remember saying, this artist, I believe, uses bars for their joints. I could be wrong, but that's just the only thing that makes sense for me for this. And then I don't like using these complex lines, but we're going to have to. And this is fine though, because it kind of trains me that I need to make this line all the time when I make legs and stuff, right? I'm getting used to making these lines in some way, shape, or form. So like if I were to try and, you know, replicate this, I just keep going down and doing this, so it's just something similar to that. When you have connection points, it's definitely a lot easier. I can't do it in reverse. Can't do it in reverse, but can definitely somewhat do it this way. Let's see here. And so this actually like angles off right off the get-go. So where we got a thickness like this, a thickness like this, and then it just goes up and over a little bit, up and over a little bit. So I mean, again, you'll get there, and I'm actually saying this to myself too, but for anybody that's watching, of course, you'll get there. You'll be able to figure this stuff out. The more and more that you do this, the ankle should be right about there, ankle joint. Same with this one here. I'm gonna leave that space. Gotta leave space for the clothes, man. It is interesting how deep this boot goes. Is really her ankle would probably be more like right around there. Okay. And did I do that with everything else too? Yeah, see, I made extra sections because this is incredibly long for how much shoe, or where that shoe ankle ends, right? So ankle is right here, and the ankle is right, well, let's see here, let's verify. No, right about where I have it, the ankle's right there. So I'm not saying that the proportions are off, but this section right here doesn't make the most sense. But again, it could be just because of me doing what I'm doing right now. Like, that's very awkward. I mean, just looking at it, right? Just look at this. This leg, if this is supposed to be riding up, this is supposed to be the ankle. And I'm looking at my own leg, right? For my own leg, you have a calf muscle comes down. And then, of course, this is mostly straight. I'm looking at it from the side, too. So it layers out a little bit at the bottom. Just being really sketchy right now. Being sketchy. All I care about is I want to see this to this. And so if this is her calf muscle and we're going down there. And if we're fair about this, right? We gotta be fair. So ankle to ankle. It just doesn't seem. But now, just to prove my point, right? So this is what we're seeing here. This is the bottom of her calf muscle, and then it starts going down into her ankle, right? All right, the bottom of my calf muscle. Now, if we bring it over to this one, oops, made a boo-boo. Okay, kneecap. Gotta match this up as best as possible. Okay, kneecap to ankle. Okay. Then we go over here, kneecap to ankle. And as you see, we're approximately the same kind of distance here. Now granted, the articulation of the foot is different, so that there's going to be a little bit of disparity there. But in the reality of things, I kind of drew my own leg just fine, right? If we look at Ambi's other leg here versus my quick sketch of just looking at my leg and just cutting off the lines where I think they need to be cut off, we're pretty much spot on. But this one over here does not make sense. And this is a flat foot, mind you. This is a flat foot, which means that this one is resting, so the entire length of the leg is true. Versus this one, this foot here actually probably should be by description. No, I don't want to by transportation. Let's see here. Let's circle this. Get this the hell out of here. This leg, if we're gonna keep the same kind of distance between here to here, right? Although this shoe seems to be slightly different than the other one, but not really. They should be the same shoe. Needless to say, we're entertaining this thought process, right? So if the ankle... This doesn't make sense. Why does this no longer make sense? Alright, so if we look at the shadows, this artist is basically saying that this foot is going backwards a little bit. Which makes sense. Yes, I see this now. And then, of course, so there would be a little bit of foreshortening. So let's take our line tool here. Where's my line tool? There it is. So let's go to the bottom of this shoe. Draw a straight line. And this is a perfectly straight line, because if you do this, right, it goes all over the place. But once you hit shift, it goes in 45-degree angles. So this is perfectly straight. This art piece also was transposed perfectly straight as well. There's been no rotations, nothing. So if we go to the bottom of her shoe and we do this, they're level. This might in turn be somewhat of a problem, because if this leg, based upon this shadow here, right? So this shadow tells me that this leg is going in this direction, and we can kind of see that with this perspective. So there's the straight line, there's the perspective. It's going backwards this way, and it makes sense. Everything makes sense for this. This shoe is gonna be blasphemy. Should be bent and not in line. Not in line with the other shoe. If this leg is going backwards, I mean, look, just do it yourself, right? Just do it yourself. Put your foot backwards. This should have a more of an aggressive bend to it, because your toes are going to be. Or go put a pair of shoes on. Go entertain me. Go put a pair of shoes on, and put your calf. You know, just bend your leg back a little bit, and get into this pose as best as you can. This shoe should have more of a bend to it. I've even trained this in previous art stuff that I've done, which is if you have anything not in line with each other, they should not be level. There should not be a space or time where they should be level. It is definitely difficult when you don't have scenery, right? Or any sort of foreground or perspective of where Ambi is and stuff, to be able to do that. But again, even doing this back and forth, right? Just watch what happens when we transform that foot a little bit. It's a little bit more dynamic, because we are adding, essentially we'd add more wrinkles and stuff like that to the shoe, which is true, because if she's using her toes and they're planted firmly on the ground, then, you know, there should be more bend to the shoe. And then I'm trying to just find out, like, how similar are these shoes together. They are the same pair of shoes. We have the same flap system here, and it's right there. So you're telling me that her ankle can't end right there. Go here. Okay, hold on. Let's prove this point as best as possible, because we're learning, right? We're trying to learn. Let's back up a metric ton. Metric ton of backing up. Okay. So this makes sense that her hip is definitely offline, right? And so her socket for her leg is going to have this disparity. That is understandable. So like if we finish this leg like this and this leg like this, right? This is the socket here for this leg. This is the socket here for there. We see this line throughout everything. So this is correct. Everything is perfectly fine in this regard. So therefore the knee would be potentially following the same line. So at a, albeit a little bit lesser of an angle. So that is correct. And this is going backwards. We're not going to draw the whole thing right now. This is going backwards, and this is remaining straight. Even when we draw this right here, let's just stop at the shoe. Let's just stop at the shoe. Stop at the shoe line. All right, so this is the section of calf for her left leg. Let's just move it over. I mean, now let's flip it around. So now this is technically her right leg, right? I don't know about you. Hey, I'm all about foreshortening, right? I'm all about foreshortening. And I understand that when you have things at greater distances or extreme angles, like this arm here is an extreme angle, I understand that you are going to have some pretty crazy perspective on certain things, right? This is not an extreme perspective change. This is a fairly mild change in direction. I mean, yes, your legs can go as far back as they pretty much want. I mean, she could touch her own ass with the back of her foot if she wanted to. You know, forward you can't do that, but backward, sure. But there cannot be this much difference between a quote-unquote slightly foreshortened lower leg, where now if we take this example, right, because the calf muscles are actually approximately in the same area, which would be true. This is true. So, you know, we're lined up pretty good, but you're telling me from the top of this boot here to the top of this boot here, I still have this much space to go, plus what's inside of the shoe itself before I get to the actual, like, where her tootsies are? Come on. Because, like, so, like, her foot should do the whole thing like this, and this should be, like, her heel is, like, right here, and then her ankle right there. But look at how much space we are working with here. There's no way. That does not make sense to me. I'm going back to the earlier drawings. Because this makes sense, because her foot is, you know, lifting up her ankle, right? So obviously the ankle is going to be up here. I mean, maybe I'm off on my anatomy, but 1 + 1 does not equal 3. Yeah, I mean, I even had this issue here. I don't think I talked about it. I just assumed that was how it was supposed to be. And this right here may be anatomically correct, right? And maybe this is the one that's having issue. But again, I even stick to my guns on this. This the toes, because this is the tip of the shoe, really. The let's see here, where is the base? This is the base, yeah. I mean, that's what feet do, right? This is what feet do. It should be something more like this. And so when you draw your shoe, as an example, just to help out, just to make sure I'm not going fucking crazy, right? So let's get our shoe back on here. So if we were to draw this shoe, essentially what I'm trying to emulate is that there would be some major wrinkles in this area, because again, she's putting her toes down on the ground. There should be no point in time where this foot is straight unless she was putting the tiptoe of the shoe on the ground. But if that was the case, then we'd see a more of an angle sweeping up the foot to put this nose right here, because this is the nose of the shoe, putting this nose on the ground, and we would have actually a more of a bend here, so her thigh would come out a little bit more. Her knee would be right here to compensate for that extra bend to do a true tiptoe on the ground. You know, you have to have equal reaction throughout the entire of articulation with your muscles and your bones and all this other stuff, right? You just can't tiptoe and not move the rest of your entire leg to compensate for it. So needless to say, what I'm trying to get at is this, if we draw a straight line now, right? Fuck some shit up. Give me a moment. Give me a moment. Fuck some shit up. Alright, so if... Whoa, what was that? It's crazy. If we go straight... exactly. This would be the tip of her shoe there. So this would be that tip right there of her shoe. Right? And then this one right here. Because again, remember what I said. This leg and these hips are... She's dropped them. And the way that they have the lines right, these are perspective lines. And how they drew her leg like this, right? This line right there, where her sock is, her thigh-high sock. You don't get that line unless you're pointing your leg backwards. You also don't get these shadows like this unless you are putting your leg behind another object. So essentially this leg is, this leg right here is in front of this leg here based on the light source coming this way. This completely makes sense. Everything is correct right now as I'm explaining it. Everything is fucking correct on her. And so if you're going to throw her leg back this way, then this foot right here, this one, whoop, will not be in line with this right here because it is going backwards. And this is how her shoe should have been mostly drawn, like a very wrinkled section of the shoe. And you, again, go test this out. Go put on a pair of shoes right now, or maybe you got shoes on right now, and put your foot pad, right? Put your foot pad, not the tiptoe. We're not doing this. Put the foot pad on the ground and lift your heel up. Look what happens. I don't even need to do this to know this information. Like your toes are going to be curled, and then you're going to have your archway, you know, do one of these. Basically, you're basically imitating a high heel. Like if we gave Ambi a high heel back here, or this is some serious fucking wedge. She's got a serious wedge back here, boys. See how it makes sense when we start drawing this stuff? Her foot should be planted on the ground, at least this right here, and this empty space right here is perfectly fine and normal. So it is what it is, right? It is what it is. But then, like I said, now that we've drawn the shoe, like we drew the shoe, not exactly of course, but the proportion correctly. This, looking at this foreshortened calf, you know, this whole leg right here, it's not long enough. I'm just trying to think. Ladies and gentlemen, I am just trying to dissect this as best as possible. And since I've had a moment to really step away from learning how to draw Ambi and stuff like that, I have to notice these things because as an artist and someone who wants to get better with their artwork, you know, am I being too critical of this? Am I being critical in the right way? Am I not noticing something? Is my noviceness in art, is my beginnerisms in art, of not truly understanding proportions and foreshortening and so on and so forth, is this actually correct? This right here seems more correct because this section here is approximately the same size, which we could just kind of bring this down, right? We don't have to really draw anything. Is approximately the same size, of which this is true, as we see here with my outline. If we really do a detailed outline, get down there, that's where the knee is, come back up, right? Woo. We can do that, right? We can do that. But needless to say, as you see, they're approximately the same size. From ankle to knee, we are the same size. You'll be surprised at how much of your body is the same size as other sections of your body. Your arms and forearms are essentially the same length. That's why when you put your arm towards your shoulder, like if you were to put your hand on your own using, let's just say, for example, so that way I don't confuse you, take your left arm or right arm, whatever one you want, and just put that arm's hand on your shoulder. if you look, your forearm essentially goes back and connects to the socket inside of your actual shoulder. So your forearm and your bicep area are the same length. The same is also true for your legs and for your thigh and calf muscles. They're going to be the same length. So this one is correct. This, however, it's close. It is actually close. It's pretty much there. But here's the issue that I see, right? Oops, didn't mean to do that. So if the ankle is, let's get this out of the way. It might be the foreshortening that's just throwing me off. Needless to say, though, I'm going to stick to my guns on this. This shoe needs to look like that. Not this way. It needs to have a flatness to it. Because even if you don't have a background or anything like that, I mean, I guess she could be floating in space, where this would make somewhat of a sense, in some sense. But if she's supposed to be standing on the ground, everything needs to be flat. And as we know from this, she's not clearly putting her tiptoe down. And even if she was, this needs to be further back. If this truly is to be the way, right, like exactly how this is supposed to be, it needs to go back about a little bit. Not much, it just needs to go back. Now you could say, oh, why are you being so critical? Like, these are just details. Do you not see how fucking detailed this character is? Okay? It's hard to pass up on these, in my personal opinion, critical thought processes of artwork if you want to try and understand this. Like, you can't just dismiss something that might not make sense to you. You got to be able to question these things, like, okay, is that really the length of this? Is this really, how this is supposed to be? And if she's actually standing on the ground, which this foot would be telling me this information, right? I'm standing on the ground. Well, why is this foot not really emulating that it is on the ground, it is planted on the ground, when all you have to do is make an aggressive toe angle, and there you go. That's just me. That's just me. Interesting. Interesting to say the least. Alright, so let's just say let's try this out. Let's put my money where my mouth is, right? Let's see how well I can do with my own type of proportion system, right? Here's me showing my ass. We're going to start off around the same type of concept. We'll have our, let's see here. Take a look here. Yeah, that's fine. Kind of do that same kind of concept. I'm also, just as a disclaimer, not trying to be perfect on this, but I want to understand how I would do my own proportions on this. Okay, shoulder up high. Okay, I get it. Made her a little larger than what I should be. That's fine. I can always shrink it down. What do we got there? That might be still too big. Let's calm this down just a little bit. I said I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. Bigger brush, bigger brush. Thank you. Okay, this is more of a taper. It's a pretty aggressive inside, so went wide, went wide. This here.
It's not as... It's one thing I need to get used to is... Like I said, this is why I said it's an advanced line. It's something that you just get used to drawing it the same time over and over and over again, and so you just know to go, ooh, and then you're done. And then we're just going to do a quick check. Take this lower half here. Whoops. Drag it up there. And we got approximately the same size. Fantastic. It's something I probably am going to fix here a little bit, though. There we go. Make her a little smaller. Perfectly fine though. Just keep on shrinking her. Fine. Nothing wrong with that. I'm gonna map this out a little bit. Elbow should be right about there. Elbow should be right about there. Hand right about there. Hand right about there. feel like my neck is a little too long. That's fine. Injured this one a little too long. Elbow supposed right here, and the band is kind of like that. If I remember right, so her hand is actually down towards the thigh. So no, that's correct. I drew the bicep way too long. Way too long. As far as elbow is concerned, yeah, it should be in the crook of the. So it needs to go up just a little bit, but there. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, it's better. And granted, I would probably, I'd use a straight line tool to verify where I want my sword to, to go and stuff like that. Let's just take a quick gander. Let's do full page this, full page that. Okay. Let's make this character a little bigger. Right about there. Something like that. Ooh. Okay, so the differences that I can see upon doing kind of like my own thing here is it is a feminine body, but it's not as curvy. So to fix this, or to better train myself at this point in time, take a section out, right? Go back to what I've been drawing. Let's see. Let's do this. So essentially, right here. Interesting. Let's go backwards a little bit here. Trying to feel out that line a little bit more. And granted, like I said, you know, this, I mean, I just drew this out of pretty much pure memory, except for looking at things and be like, okay, yeah, that's how that was supposed to be. That's how it was supposed to be, or allegedly be, right? Allegedly. Let's see. So this is the one I'm currently working on. It's a pretty significant difference. Hey, Uzi! What's up, Uzi? What's up? So if we take the last example that we were making of Ambi, right, and we compare this base model to the one that I'm drawing, you know, like I said, I'm gonna put my fucking money where my mouth is, right? I'm gonna show my ass. And this is my proportions versus their proportions. I'm debating, right? I'm just trying to think, because like, so here's the original Ambi that we worked on. Get this back to full screen. So it looks like these shoulders are much just higher in general. Like they're almost meeting up with her cheek here. So like we would take this, I mean, now, Uzi says, I'm live right now. My mom left church and I have a bit of free time, so I thought, why not? Let's see, let's swap over. So I'm actually live on my live. So let me swap over to your live, because I already know what I sound like. Everything seems to be fine now. Oh, we're playing Minecraft today, eh? Playing Minecraft. Now, do you have your mic on, Uzi? Yeah, yeah. It was just like, yes, the Minecraft, yes. Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Your voice is coming in really clear. Very nice. Minecraft for the win. That's right. All right. So noticing. Oh yes. A man. Okay. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. Not too shabby, especially. And now, have you messed with your mic settings at all? Zombies. Yeah. Gotcha. Interesting. Very interesting. And so, you know, as far as with the artwork here that we're doing, oh no. So much time, Uzi, so much time. Hey, hey. Samurai Kit Kat says hey. So, looking at my proportions from what I've done here. So this is going back to Ambi lesson number 2 at the tab over here on Clip Art Studio. You know, obviously, like I stated, we have ourselves the Ambi proportions that we thought were there, right? Because it obviously it creates Ambi. And then here's my proportions on how I would actually structure this. Now, granted, I would say, like, yes, the shoulder being up this far most certainly would make some sense, especially if you go down this road here. Maybe I made it a little skinnier than the normal Ambi, right? A little skinnier than normal Ambi. So what am I learning from this experience so far? I guess make my girls a little thicker. make the girls a little thicker. Because as far as, like, if we went back to this first example, right, I think a lot of people would just stare at this and be like, oh, yeah, that's nice, man. Fuck, dude, that's so good. and, you know, there you go. Versus, you know, this one here, you know, we just need to thicken it up a little bit. Just make it a little thicker. Make it a little thicker, baby. And then, like, I guess now that I'm re-noticing, you know, they made like a curve like this. I see what that do. And then they have this like curling in a little bit. I like this. This is something new that I learned. This definitely adds a little bit more thickness in that area. Okay. I see. As far as the face is concerned, you know, head to shoulder ratios and stuff. We're pretty close. So if we notice the cheeks here, right? So this is how Ambi's eyes were and like how her cheeks are on this. Ah, I see. I see what I did wrong. I made this like a little too straight. A little too straight. I think that's about right. It's just interesting to see how thick this character actually is when you compare it to mine. You know, it's just interesting. It's crazy to me how different I will do proportions. Granted, I don't think I'm like wrong though, right? Like I think since Ambi is supposed to be a smallish girl, right? Like, hmm. We can refine this a little bit. Let's see here. How far can I get today? How would I draw Ambi in my own like style here? Interesting. Okay. We'll just do like I normally do, which is, like I said, I'm more like a layered sketch artist, right? So there would be really never a point in time where I would actually be able to get this shape this easily. So I'm actually kind of surprised at myself that I even went through this. I mean, go back through my other art pieces that I've done, such as like with Kitsukai and so on and so forth. You know, I do a whole wireframe before I start going in through and doing stuff like this. But I'm just trying to do things through memory, and this is where we're at. I think that's about as far up as it goes, right? Not that far. Not that far. More so like. Okay. Go down about 20%, and then we're going to redraw this. Again, I know I'm putting my money where my mouth is, right? I'm trying to give you an idea of how I think the proportions should be on Ambi. But of course, you know, it's not what I like, right? What's everybody else likes, and everybody likes this. This is what everybody likes. But can I make my own version of fan art, right? Essentially, or for Ambi? Do a different color. I see. No, because no, that was right. 'Cause I'm like this. The fingertip curls around that blade there, so that's or the handle, so that's right. I was being crazy. All right. We can continue using red. So, we're going to continue using red. Let's go ahead and get the facial features done. Let's see, if I remember right, they're pretty much very traditional. Yeah, it's a little shorter respite. They share the same angle. Hmm. No. It's just fairly small. Hmm. Okay. So really need to follow the curve here. Them curves, girl, them curves. Okay. Yeah, I think I need more curve. Just couldn't get that curve that I wanted. Now I got it. Now I get it. it meets up with this one. So it meets up with this one there with that. Okay, so that would be correct. There is no gap. So come on. Alright, so this back area, alright, is gonna be a little just custom. Let me just say that it's gonna be very custom. Hell of a loop. Right. Noticing that her chin is just a little more round, which then leads to a little bit larger of a face. Pixelation! Now knowing how her eye actually kind of sits. Oh, that's a little bit. The way that they do it, they pretty much just come straight up and that's a hell of an angle, man. Layer. Separate layers. Separate. Let's figure out a good shape. I'm trying to think if I want to change the fingers up or not. I think what I have planned for this ambi here, this would be fun. Yeah, that's this. We'll just keep going with this plan. I'm just not dropping it sharp enough. That's my main problem right now. Well, this I'm going to need a reference. Bless you. Bless you. A wife be sneezing. Let's see here. How can I do this? Let's see. Too much. There we go. Trying to think of how that toe would look. There we go. Thinking, anatomy. All about that anatomy, baby. Let's see, how would that... I think actually the toes need to come out a little bit more is my problem. Woo! Think. That's what I'm thinking. Let me take a good look at this real quick. I think her foot needs to be just a smidge smaller, like just a tiny bit smaller. It's a tough decision. Maybe not. We'll make it just a tiny bit smaller just for shits and giggles.
Come on, admit it. Admit it, you like this version of Ambi better than the original. Don't you lie to me. Don't you lie to me.
Now, granted, like I said, there's some things I'm going to have to switch up and stuff, but needless to say, though, this to me is anatomically a little bit more correct. Hey, you can disagree. It don't matter. It don't matter. But just when I'm looking at these figures here, let's see here. Right, like this is probably the best example. So zoom in just a scotch. Alright, so this is essentially quote unquote Hoyo versus base. Obviously, I have no freaking clue. This is just what we've been working on. I know that we were doing a clothing lesson today, right? But I'm stepping back. I'm just stepping back and I'm thinking about everything. I have to think about everything. And I want a really good base, and of course I have to put myself into it too, right? And that's, again, upgrading and developing your own style, or adopting a style but then altering it for your own means or whatever. And of course, I want to try and get as close to a Hoyoverse character as possible, and I think I'm going to be able to achieve that, especially when I start getting into like the clothing and stuff, right? So, you know, when I start getting into stuff like this, we'll have a Hoyoverse character, in my personal opinion. But if this is the base, I don't know about you, but like, I don't know. And I'm not saying that the artist is wrong. Obviously not. There's nothing wrong at all with the artwork that is presented to us. And obviously most 99.9% of people are going to look at this right here and they're absolutely going to be in love with it. I'm in love with it. I freaking love this artwork. It's awesome. But when you really grind in deep into details like I'm doing, and this, you could take any favorite character of yours. You could probably take stuff. I can't even mention One Piece, right? One Piece is a completely different animal when it comes to anatomy. But Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, so on and so forth. These characters anatomically don't make sense. They are anatomically correct in their own regard, in their own way. And that's fine. And that's the same concept here with Ambi. This Ambi is anatomically correct in her own way. It's just like, but when I was just looking at stuff, I'm just like, man, there's just some things that I would just do differently, because anatomically to me, this is a little bit more pleasing than this, right? And to be as fair as possible, let's just do this one. This is the most fair one, right? This is the most fair comparison. Things I'm noticing is I probably should make her head a little smaller. Let's do that right now. Let's see here. Yeah, because 3 and 4. Her hair would also shrink too, right? Oh, I forgot one detail. That's fine. Yeah, I'd say her hair just gets a little smaller as well. Not by much. And this right here is the prime example why you want to do everything on one layer, because like you see, one of my eyeballs is on my hair layer, and then you know, that means not all of, I'd have to circle that eyeball, and I have to select multiple layers in order to do what I want to do, which most likely is also going to involve the hair as well, but we're going to try. We're going to have to really zoom in here. Now, making heads too big is also a fault of mine. I tend to do this. Yeah, that's already starting to look a lot better. Yeah. Her head needs to shrink just a skoch. But we've kept Ambi in the relatively same pose. All we've done really is just is, in my personal opinion, right? This is strong personal opinions. Have just tried to anatomically understand this a little bit better, and in my own words, do it the way that I would do it. Is it wrong? Is it right? Yeah. It all comes down to personal opinion. Some people are probably like, oh man, this is so much better than the original. Like, dude, you need to do this, blah blah. And some people are like, dude, this is just trash. This is, oh my god, I can't believe you strayed away from what Ambi should be. Like, obviously, like with the arm, like I didn't go this aggressively angled. I kept her a little bit more outward straight. And you know, it's just me, man. It's just me. Let's see here. So technically, if I wanted to change this up, right? Easy fix. Take this right here. And just do something similar to that. Right? Of which, of course, we'd fix that, all that right there, but that would be a little closer to actual, as far as replicating the entire pose. Alright, we got that. We don't need to, well, we can merge these layers. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and merge all this. Obviously, if you couldn't tell, I'm doing a bikini model. Select the layers. And then once we get all this and stuff, you know, we'll continue forward. I'm just having to look up at the time, and I actually need to get to bed because I will need to wake up at 3 a.m. I gotta wake up at 3 a.m. and I got a long ass day tomorrow. I already know I have a long ass day tomorrow. But needless to say, if you stayed tuned or something like and watched on the stream, of course, Uzi, you know, my man, my dude, my bro, watching the streams all the time. Of course, I've been watching this as well. Needless to say, hopefully you enjoyed this. I know I was supposed to get into doing more of the you know, clothing lessons like we were doing, but after noticing these things, I needed to give myself an opportunity to do it the way that I think it would need to be done, in my personal opinion. And so this is how we got to here, right? And that all being said, though, I mean, we're not far off. I think we're still doing Ambi justice at this point in time. We are still going to give her sword. The sheath we're going to put on the ground here because clearly she's not going to have it equipped to her. And then we're going to do like a badass beach babe, you know, outfit or something like that, right? And finish her out. And that will be my version of Ambi, fan art, if you will, of Ambi. And, you know, just go from there. And then we will get back into clothing lessons and finish out this version of Ambi. And you know, backtrack on my shoes and stuff like that, because again, I can think whatever I want to think, but if I'm trying to figure out clothing, I can't be this critical here. I just have to accept that it is what it is, and that I keep my mental notes, I keep my mentality sharp, and then I just know that I need to do stuff like this when I do my own figures, and just be proud and happy with my own style, along with adopting, of course, Hoyoverse's aesthetic is really what that is. So, needless to say, thank you for joining me on the stream today. I really appreciate you. Appreciate Uzi, of course, as always. And anybody who watches this on YouTube later, I'm actually curious about you folks. Like, comment. That's the big one. Comment, and of course, subscribe. Helps out. But needless to say, I want to know, do you like the quote-unquote alleged "this is how Hoyoverse artist had done there"? This is probably the best one. This is the most fair one at this point in time. Hoyoverse base model, or do you prefer my base model? Let me know in the comments below. But needless to say, this is your host, Samurai Kit Kat, and you have yourself a wonderful evening. Toodles!